purchase, repair, or replace existing units. It can be window units or either the central air conditioning and heating.
So if your old air conditioner dies on you, you can apply for a LIHEAP assistance.
Yes, you can.
To buy a new one.
Yes.
Okay. What are the requirements? How is someone determined to, how can they tell whether they're eligible for LIHEAP assistance?
Okay, LIHEAP right now is at 60% of the state median income. So there's a chart out there online you can pull up on the DHS website to show that.
Okay.
Also, you can contact your local community action agency and they can give you an indication of whether you may qualify or not.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the community action agencies. How many of those are there across the state?
Okay, we deal with 18 in all. We deal with community action agencies and human resource agencies with these grants. And community action agencies have been out there since the 1960s. Okay. So they have a long history of providing services to their communities.
Let's see. Is there a place where an individual, if he or she or family wants to apply for assistance, is there a place where they need to go to submit an application?
Well, first, we have a virtual Roma computer system for all of our grants with my division, and you can go to virtualroma.mdhs.ms.gov to fill out a pre-application if you've never applied for these services before. But if you've obtained these services before, you would just need to contact your local community action agency, and they can give you the casework that you had worked with earlier.
Okay. So now, if somebody's not sure what community action agency covers their geographic area in the state, is there someplace they can go to figure out which community action agency they should talk to?
Yes, they can go to the DHS website, mdhs.ms.gov, and click on the community services link, and it gives a county listing for each community action agency.
Okay. And I think we are going to be posting a link also, or at least posting a list on our Facebook page for folks to get that same information that's on our website.
Okay.
Well, one of the other things I know we get community services block grant funding, and we got some CARES Act funding for rental and mortgage assistance. Is that right?
That's correct.
What will that assistance help families with?
Okay, CSBG, Community Services Block Grant, can help with help a family pay their mortgage or rental assistance. Also, that funding is used to help a family become self-sufficient. So when they go into the community action agencies and do an application, the agencies look at the entire need of the family. They may need a better education, a better job. They may need nutrition services. The agency will look at that and they'll try to link that family with whatever resources that agency has, as well as referral resources to other local and state agencies. Okay. So whatever it takes to make a family self-sufficient, CSBG can help them.
All right. Now, when you're talking about agencies, you're talking again about the community action agencies.
All right.
So the community action agencies are also where folks will go for this rental or mortgage assistance.
Yes.
Let me ask you back on the LIHEAP just a moment. Do you have any idea how many families are we helping kind of on an annual basis with our LIHEAP program?
The last federal report that we submitted, we helped over 46,000 families.
Wow. Okay, so a lot of folks.
And those were unduplicated numbers. So sometimes they would come in for different assistance. They may come in this month to help with an electric bill. Across the summer, they may need it, for the cooling season.
Right.
For the winter, they may need it for the heating season. And then also we can purchase the air conditioning units and even things like fans and blankets, especially during emergency situations.
Okay. Now, the rental and mortgage assistance, I believe some of the CARES Act money that the state as a whole got that was administered or that was appropriated through the legislature also had a rental or mortgage assistance program that the department, the Mississippi Development Authority is handling. Do we have anything to do with that program at all?
No, we don't.
Okay, so our $15 million block grant in CARES Act funding is separate entirely.
Separate.
Okay, and does the rental and mortgage assistance, that goes directly to the families? Or
no, it goes to the landlords or either the mortgage companies
Okay.
None of our funding goes directly to the families.
Okay. But if they're behind, delinquent on their mortgage or their rent, then this will help bring them current.
Yes, sir. It will catch them up.
And move them toward, as you said, being self-sufficient.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have another program that's called the Weatherization Program. And what I understand about it is really one of the country's largest residential efficiency programs. Is that right?
That's correct.
What is it designed to do exactly? What's that program all about?
It's designed to help with the energy efficiency in homes, to help it stay cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. And what our agencies do, first you have to do an application to determine if you're eligible by income. Once they determine that you're eligible by income, then a coordinator will come out to your home and conduct a series of tests on your home to see if the home qualifies. And at that point, if it qualifies, then they can help you with things like weather stripping, insulation, and that can be insulation in the walls, in the floors, in the attic, also caulking and things of that nature. They install smart thermometers to help you conserve energy, and they also provide consumer education, so the clients can know exactly what they need to do to keep their energy bills down.
Okay, so if I have a drafty old house, the weatherization program is something that can probably help me out.
It would.
Is the program geared toward anybody in particular, any particular part of the population?
Yes, sir. The target population are the elderly, disabled, and families with small children. But anybody who qualifies can get the assistance, but those are the target populations that we try to help first.
Okay. And is there a similar sort of application process through, you mentioned virtual Roma. There's similar application process for weatherization assistance?
It's the same process. Okay. And we encourage all the agencies to, as part of the CSBG grant, there's a case management component. So once that family comes in to apply for one program, they test eligibility for all programs.
Okay, so if a family gets some LIHEAP assistance, the community action agency, then they look at their home and say, well, let's see whether your home qualifies for some weatherization help.
Yes, sir. And especially if they notice that the energy bill is very high, they will say, well, wonder why your bill is so high. Right. And that would be a potential candidate for the weatherization program.
Okay. Okay. The LIHEAP assistance, is that, I'm assuming from what you said about the rental assistance, the LIHEAP assistance, is it paid directly to the utilities?
Yes. Okay. It's paid directly to the energy companies.
Okay. So to Entergy or Atmos or CenterPoint, one of those, or one of the EPAs, I guess, out in the residential, I mean the rural residential areas?
It would be any energy company that client pays their bill to.
Okay. Including buying some firewood if they have wood burning.
Including buying some firewood.
Okay. Good to hear. And again, the agencies, the community action agencies that work on weatherization, they're in that same directory that's on our website.
They are.
Yeah. Now, we have an annual community services block grant, as I understand it. Is that right?
That's correct.
Separate from the CARES Act money that we got last year. And my understanding is all of the community service block grant is, again, designed to help families become more self-sufficient. Is that right?
That's correct.
So what are some of the kinds of supports that the general community service block grant funding can be used for? What kinds of projects will that be used for?
It's a lot of different projects, and I made a few notes so that I wouldn't forget certain things. We have different components of that program. It can help with education, like helping someone get a GED or diploma, or either some supports for college students. Housing, it can help with rent and mortgage, of course. Employment, we can help with job training, work supports. A client may need lab supplies, they may need uniforms, we can help with all of that. Income management, that's a big thing with CSBG. You can help a client with budgeting. The funds that they do receive, we can help them with budgeting. And another main component that the community action agencies administer is EITC. They partner with the IRS to provide free tax assistance to the community. So, and once they help them, you know, get this big, large income tax refund, we help them to budget the money.
Okay. The EITC, that's the Earned Income Tax Credit, right?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
And is it usually true that a lot of our families that are eligible for CSBG assistance are eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that's money in their pocket.
That's money in their pocket.
Great. Okay.
And other services that CSBG can do is emergency services. A lot of times, well, you know, Mississippi is a state where we have a lot of tornadoes and hurricanes and things. So CSBG can help with temporary housing, emergency food and clothing, also nutrition. We may have a family to come in and apply, and they may not know about SNAP. So in order for them to get expedited services through SNAP, they would have to apply through the local SNAP office. So we can make a direct referral to the SNAP office. And if it, you know, takes a day or two for SNAP, well, they need food right then. So we can issue a food voucher and get them food that day.
All right. Well, now I have a note here that for CSBG services, individuals have to be within 125% of the current federal poverty guideline.
Yes,
is that
sir.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means their household income can't be any more than 125% of the federal
Correct.
poverty level.
Correct.
And that's determined based on the size of the household?
Yes.
Okay.
Household size and income.
And I neglected to mention earlier, in the weatherization program, the threshold's a little bit higher there, right? It's 200% of the federal poverty level?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you have been really active in looking around the state and looking for opportunities to help families.
Mm-hmm.
One particular project I was able to be a part of, just to watch it unfold, was a project involving a water well up in the Slaughter community up near Greenwood. Tell us a little bit about how that all came together.
Okay, Dr. Pam Gary, the executive director of Central Mississippi, called me one day and told me about there were about 6 families on this rural road in that county, and they had been without water for 6 months at that time. And she asked me, was there any funding that could help with the project?
Now, you say without water, they didn't have any running water
No
in their houses?
running water in their houses. Their well had messed up.
Okay.
And the agency had been providing them with bottled water. They also partnered with the local fire department to bring in 1,000 gallons of water so that they could bathe and you know, do other things that they needed. And so they hosted a series of community meetings, and nobody really had a solution to the problem because the well was going to cost so much money. And Dr. Gary called me, and I was like, well, I had just received correspondence from CSBG in DC about a CSBG disaster grant. And I thought about doing it for some of the counties in the Delta area where they had a lot of flooding.
Right.
And so I went ahead and wrote for the grant, and we were funded. But once we were funded, we found out that CSBG could not cover that particular thing. So I talked back with my federal officials, and they said, well, you can write for a waiver because it had been done before.
Okay.
And I got information on how to write the waiver, and I did that. And within about a month and a half, we were approved for a $63,000 grant, which would have covered the cost for the well.
Okay. So these folks' water well had been flooded out when the Delta area was flooded the year before?
Yes.
And that whole first half of last year, they were without water.
Without water.
And you got the funding, you got the waiver.
Mm-hmm.
Did they actually get to dig the water well?
They did. And they, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Okay, and they sent me an email and showed me the pump when it was first producing the water, and it was such a beautiful sight to see that, because the families had been without water for such a long time. And that was one of the highlights of my career, to be able to help with such a big project.
Right. Well, yeah, 6 families without water, and now they have running water in their homes. That's what I call community service. That's a real community service.
Thank you.
Well, I see we have quite a few questions, so I'm going to go ahead and start looking at some of the questions. Talking about water, we have questions along these lines from time to time. Folks often ask, can I, people think their water bill is a utility. Can their water bill qualify for assistance through the LIHEAP program at all?
No, it cannot qualify. Water is not considered an energy bill.
Okay.
However, if a family is in a case management plan with CSBG, we may be able to help them for 1 month with their water bill.
Okay. But LIHEAP is home energy assistance
Home
only.
energy assistance only.
Gas, electricity,
Yes.
fuel like wood to burn in a fireplace, but not water.
Not water.
Okay. Now, one of our questions was, can anyone help with light bills beside Mississippi? I'm not sure I understand that question. Who helps? Who do we help with their electricity bills? Anybody in the state that qualifies? Can
Yes.
anybody apply for the
Anybody
assistance?
that qualifies by income, we can help them.
Okay. Now, what if the local community action agency that's in the area where somebody wants to apply for LIHEAP, a lot of these offices have been closed due to the pandemic, and they call the number and they don't get an answer, and they call the number and they don't get an answer, and they go to the office and it's closed. How can I submit an application if my local community action agency is not open or is not answering their phone?
Well, all agencies are supposed to be open now and taking applications by phone. But if something happens where they can't reach an agency, they can call our 1-800 number, 1-800-421-0762. And I have several people in my office who will take the phone call and they will do a direct referral to the agency and we will get an answer.
Okay, so if they can't get their direct community action agency, they can call you directly.
Yes.
And you'll put them in touch with their community action.
Yes, we will.
Now, do we have contractual relationships? The agency has contractual relationships with these community action agencies.
Yes,
right?
sir.
They're our partners.
They're our partners.
So that's why you're reaching out to them saying, we have a client and we need you as our partner to help this client out.
Yes, sir, exactly.
All right. What about help with paying past due versus current bills for somebody who's disabled? Does LIHEAP, if they need assistance, does it matter whether it's a past due bill as opposed to this month's bill, the current bill?
We try to pay the current bill only. However, because the elderly and disabled and families with children under 5 are part of the vulnerable population, we can pay past due bills.
Okay.
And especially with the CARES Act money, there's no stipulation on that. There's no limit on that amount of funding, so we can pay the full amount of the bill.
Okay. What about people who don't already receive any kind of assistance? Is it possible they could qualify for LIHEAP or weatherization even if they don't receive any kind of assistance from MDHS right now?
Yes, sir. And we are encouraging people who have never applied before, and especially people who were impacted by COVID. We have a lot of people who lost their jobs and don't know about our services. So we encourage them to go ahead and apply as soon as possible, because we take them on a first come, first served basis. And if you've never applied before, that's what this money is for.
Okay. So if they're determined to be eligible, we don't put any other restrictions on whether they can receive the assistance?
No, sir, we don't.
Let's talk a minute about COVID precautions, because I assume with the weatherization program, somebody has to come into the home and do an examination and then maybe actually do the work inside the home, right?
Yes, sir.
What kind of COVID precautions are we taking right now for those kinds of weatherization visits?
Okay, right now, the coordinators that come out and also the contractors have to wear Tyvek suits. They have the face mask and everything. And they ask the family when they're in the home if they would stay in another room while they're conducting the assessments. Or if they have small children or other people who are vulnerable, they ask them to maybe go to a family member's house while the services are being provided.
Okay. And if somebody is making an appointment with a local community action agency that is in operation, what kind of COVID precautions are those agencies making for for receiving people for appointments?
Okay, right now, they only allow certain people to come into the offices. If they come into the office, they have one person to come in. They clean before and after, they, sterilize the seats and the desk and everything. Everybody wears masks. And what they prefer right now, we're taking applications by phone. And any eligibility information that the client will need to turn in, we can either send a worker out to the car, or we have lock boxes where they can drop the information off. And let me back up. If the worker comes to the car, they will take the information, make a copy of it, and they'll bring it back to the client, so that they don't have to come into the office and be exposed.
Okay. Now, there was a lot of talk toward the end of the year about a lot of this CARES Act money needing to be spent before the end of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Is the rental assistance and mortgage assistance CARES Act money that's been awarded to community services, did that run out at the end of last year?
No. The CSBG CARES Act money won't expire until September of 2022.
Okay.
And right now, the LIHEAP money will expire September of this year unless they extend it. There was some talk that they were going to extend it.
Okay, so folks still have another 8 or 9 months to get LIHEAP assistance from
Yes.
CARES Act money,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got till September of next year for rental and mortgage assistance.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll keep awarding the assistance until we
run out.
Run out of the money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. I think I've covered most of everything that's in your division, but if there's, is there something else we need to talk about to let folks know the full scope of community services division, or?
No, that's about it. But we would encourage everybody to check on your neighbors, especially the elderly and disabled, because a lot of times we know that the elderly and disabled are proud people and they don't want to ask for help.
Right.
But this money is out there to help individuals and families, especially during this COVID time. And we need to get the money out. We don't want to send a penny back to the federal government.
Right.
So we want to make sure that everybody who needs the assistance get the assistance, and we're here to provide all the assistance that you would need.
Okay, so we've got these funds, and we're just waiting for applications for folks to come and tell us they need the
Yes.
help.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good. How many folks are in your division? How many, you're covering the whole state with community services.
Mm-hmm.
How many folks do you have working in your division?
I have 12, including myself.
Oh my goodness, so you've got 12 people covering the whole state of Mississippi,
Yes.
but you got 17 or 18 community action agencies who are your hands and feet on the ground, basically.
Yes.
That
Mm-hmm.
spread that assistance throughout their geographic area.
Yes.
The community action agencies, now, they generally cover 4, 5, 10 different counties. Is that the way they're structured?
Some of them do. We do have some one-county agencies, but it just varies as to how they were set up originally.
Okay, like Hinds County, I think, has one
county.
because it's such a big county.
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right, great. Well, Tina, it sounds like your division is doing some great work, especially right now when people need it during this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to encourage folks that if you need assistance, whether it's energy assistance or weatherization for your home or other assistance, as Tina talked about, transportation, educational needs, employment needs, all of those to help your family become self-sufficient, reach out to the Community Services Division. You'll have the information on our website. And this is the second of our town halls. Next week, we're going to be talking with Chad Shook, who's the division director for our Child Support Enforcement Division. So if you have questions about child support, and I'm sure quite a few folks may have questions, go ahead and be submitting those questions. You can submit them. There'll be a link on our Facebook page. And you can also submit them to us by email to ndhs.communications@ndhs.ms.gov. And we're going to be spending about a half hour. We're scheduled for 11 o'clock next week, talking with Chad Shook about child support. Well, Ms. Ruffin, I thank you for spending some of your time with us, for sharing with folks about how they can get the assistance that we provide, that your division provides, both in energy assistance and weatherization and community services block grant, and you're doing great work. I'm glad that we're able to share more with folks about it.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll see you again next week when we talk about child support enforcement.